The political equation's pretty simple. If this election becomes a referendum on Scott Morrison, then Anthony Albanese will become Australia's 31st Prime Minister. Assessments of the PM as untrustworthy and a bully handicap Morrison in a race where he's already behind. But he will seek to hobble his opponent by stoking doubts about the Labor leader's capacity and experience. He senses Albanese hasn't done enough to define himself, so will seek to do it for him in a bid to frighten voters into sticking with the incumbent. So prepare for a vicious and personal tale of two leaders, each telling a story about the other. And when they do make their own case, Morrison will argue he's saved lives during the pandemic, stood up to Beijing's coercion and strengthened alliances through AUKUS. Albanese will reassure voters he's someone who can bridge the gap between the boardroom and shop floor and has a vision for the future. Election campaigns have their own dynamic. Scrutiny is intense. Morrison is a proven campaigner. Albanese faces his first as leader. Now they both need a weary nation to listen. Scott Morrison joins me now. Prime Minister, you said today that Australians were tired of politics. Could the truth be that they're actually tired of you?
Well, it's been a tough few years. People have been getting through the pandemic, and Australia is now coming out of that pandemic with one of the strongest jobs records and strongest economic growth records amongst the advanced world. And so we now need to make a big decision, and that decision is to keep a strong economy, which means a stronger future, guaranteeing the essential services Australians rely on, or risking it all by going in a different path with a Labor opposition whose economic record just doesn't measure up.
But do you worry that judgments about you have hardened and they're not flattering?
This election is about the people watching right now. It's not about any individual, it's not about me or anyone else. It's about you who are watching and your priorities and ensuring that your job, your future, training for young people right across the country, the investment in the infrastructure that we're delivering, a stronger economy, delivering that stronger future. Labor's alternative, their financial management, their economic management, their record is well known, and it doesn't measure up to deliver that strong economy that we need for the future.
Well, as you say, this first term has been dominated by a pandemic. If you do win a second term, can we expect to see a reform agenda from you?
Well, our economic plan is to keep taxes low and cut red tape. It's to ensure we're investing in the skills and infrastructure Australia needs, and we are investing in those skills and infrastructure. It is ensuring reliable and affordable energy to drive our economy into the future. We're embracing the data and digital economy to lead the world in this area in the top 10 by 2030, and we're making things here in Australia, particularly for our defence industries, and giving our sovereign manufacturing capability. In the last 12 months, we've turned around the budget by over $100 billion. That is the strongest recovery we've seen in 70 years. But to keep that going, we need to keep going forward with that plan that is delivering one of the strongest economies in the world today coming out of this pandemic.
PM, thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot.
And now we go to Launceston for the Labor leader. Mr Albanese, you're the politician who's long said he likes to fight Tories. You now claim to be the consensus leader. Which is the real Anthony Albanese?
Well, I said that once, and I said that in the context in 2012 when the Labor Party was tearing itself apart. Disunity is a real problem, and what we're seeing at the moment is disunity on the other side of politics, and that is one of the things that's leading to chaos on the other side and a failure to govern. I've been consistent, if you look at my record, in creating Infrastructure Australia, creating regional development in Australia, looking at bodies that bring business and unions together, bring people together in the common interests.
Your pitch is one of safe change, but how would Australia change if you become Prime Minister?
We take climate change seriously and see it as an opportunity, not just a challenge. You'd have 82% renewables by 2030. You'd create 604,000 new jobs and you'd reduce energy prices. We'd use that to create new industry, to create jobs in manufacturing in particular. And we'd do that by having more secure work, but we'd also have a strengthening of Medicare and a support for not just childcare as an economic reform, but also support for dealing with the crisis in aged care.
So by year's end, what will you have achieved if you do win on May 21st?
We will have established a National Reconstruction Fund. We will be starting to transform the energy grid for the 21st century. We'll be fixing the NBN. We'll be making progress in fixing aged care by dealing with simple challenges that are there, even things like nutrition, where we've got Maggie Beer on board to assist with that process. We will be a more outward-looking, more forward-looking country under my leadership and under a government I hope to lead. At the moment, you have a government that just looks backwards, that isn't planning for the future. You can't change a country overnight, but what you can do is work with the country going forward. And one of the first things I'll do is to convene a full employment summit, which will get business and unions around the table trying to work out how we boost productivity in a way that leads to higher profits and higher wages.
Mr Albanese, we're out of time. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Andrew.